I'm reviewing the Conge Posterne. I hope I've pronounced it right, by Michael D. Britton. It's science fiction fantasy. I wouldn't usually read fantasy, I have to say. I do read a lot of science fiction, but fantasy tends to infuriate me with being a bit too airy-fairy. And I'm really glad to say that this isn't airy-fairy at all. I think these characters are very real. I actually didn't read the synopsis before I started reading the novel, and as it opens, characters seem to be human. With the title, the Congo, for some reason I thought that it was going to be something about Africa, the Congo, and there's a group of young people walking across a rope bridge, and in my head they were African people, and they were talking to each other and just interacting just as people do, and then the rope bridge snaps and one of the Kino, one of the characters, reached out with her tail to grab hold of the bridge, and at that point I thought, they're not people. And I did wonder if they were monkeys because of the tail, but then one of the other characters had wings, and then there was the quite quickly I came to realise that it was non-human and in a non-human world because of the first orb and the second orb and the various types of various things that were said about the environment, and I thought that was really cleverly done, I have to say, because usually this kind of thing, when you're in another world, it comes across as quite clunky to me as a reader, which is one of the reasons I don't like fantasy. It comes across, you've got talking animals and that kind of thing. I don't appreciate it, but this book I do. I think that I would. I think that this might actually turn me on to fantasy, I have to say. Well done on that. One thing is that it starts with a literal cliffhanger, which is, you as a reader, you're breathless from the first moment, really, which is obviously a really good ploy for the writer to do. But then, of course, you've got to keep that going all the way through. But I think in this extract, I think the excitement is there. You've always got a what's going to happen thing. I really like the two aliens who finally, towards the end of the extract, you get to know their names. I think they're Gertrude and Wilhelm or something like that. I like those two, and I'm not going to give away any spoilers in case anybody wants to read this. But I like the way it's done, because initially, when there was the 4 eyes mentioned, Gertrude had 4 eyes, and I thought, I wonder. But then Wilhelm had 3 eyes, and I thought, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe I'm reading into it. But it turned out to be as I thought. So I think that's quite clever. Again, it's well done. The only thing that I would take issue with was occasionally there's a little bit too much exposition. For instance, there's a point where one of the characters is talking about a lend, some kind of telepathic transferring their thoughts into someone else, and then they say the lend, Kino has a lend into another character's mind, and then the other character has a lend into her mind, and then there's a link, and then there's this whole paragraph explaining what the link is, and the fact that it's generally only adult females that have this link, and blah blah blah. And I think that's quite unnecessary, because all you need to do is you've already explained it. Okay, my battery ran out then, but all is not lost. Thank God for rechargeables. So I was obviously talking a bit too much and waffling, so I'm going to try and be a bit more concise. I was talking about the lend and the link, and I don't think that paragraph is necessary. That's something that would be picked up by an editor, and it's the only point when I was reading where I actually realised that I was reading a manuscript as opposed to an already published book. So points for that, I think, that there's only one thing that I can actually, say, oh, that's a bit, it didn't quite work for me. Everything else, perfectly as a published book would be. I think it's very well crafted. I definitely read on, and I'm going to give 5 stars. I'd buy it, I would say. I don't tend to read fantasy very much, but I do occasionally, if somebody recommends, or if it's really high grade fantasy, then I will, and I think that this would be something that I would buy. Really, it depends on how it's marketed, and that's the crucial point. But well done for getting this far, and good luck in the rest of it. I don't really have any predictions as to whether this gets through or not. I think it might, but there are 835 others. And yeah, 5 stars, and that's the end of my review.